Peter William Sutcliffe, later feared across Britain as the Yorkshire Ripper, was born on June 2, 1946, in the industrial town of Bingley, England. He grew up in a working-class household, one of several children in a family that struggled to get by but carried on with resilience, as many did in post-war England. His father, a stern man with traditional expectations, often clashed with his son's quiet and introverted nature. Peter was not like the other boys. While many enjoyed sports, mischief, and camaraderie, he remained reserved, detached, and somewhat aloof, often wandering alone. Those who knew him in childhood described him as shy, but also peculiar. Teachers noticed his lack of focus and ambition, while classmates remembered him as someone who never quite fit in. He was easily overlooked, fading into the background. Yet behind this silence grew a boy with complex thoughts and insecurities. As he entered adolescence, these insecurities morphed into something darker. He developed strong opinions about morality and sin, especially toward women, particularly those he judged as immoral. This rigid mindset, born of personal struggles and inner conflict, slowly carved the foundation of a future filled with violence. Sutcliffe worked odd jobs, moving between short stints of employment. Eventually, he found steadier work as a gravedigger. In this role, he often spent long hours alone, which seemed to suit him. But this time also deepened his fixation with death. He grew fascinated with the quiet, solemn environment of the cemetery, spending hours in thought. His colleagues later described him as strange and withdrawn, sometimes even unsettling in his behavior. The seeds of his dark fascination with mortality, punishment, and control were quietly germinating. By his 20s, Sutcliffe entered into a marriage with Sonia Surma. Outwardly, this relationship gave the appearance of stability. They moved into a modest home, and he carried the image of an ordinary husband and working man. Sonia, a teacher in training, was said to be strict and strong-willed, often dominating the marriage. Some believe this dynamic further fueled Sutcliffe's feelings of inadequacy and resentment, driving him deeper into a double life. To neighbors, the couple appeared unremarkable. Behind closed doors, however, Sutcliffe continued to harbor dangerous fantasies about violence against women. By the mid-1970s, these fantasies had grown impossible to contain. He began testing his impulses in real attacks, often striking women with hammers before fleeing the scene. In some cases, his victims survived, though badly injured, providing haunting early warnings of the predator at large. In October 1975, Sutcliffe claimed his first known murder victim, Wilma McCann, a 28-year-old mother of 4, brutally attacked near her home in Leeds. The crime stunned the community, but at first, few could have guessed that it marked the beginning of a nightmare that would stretch on for years. Sutcliffe's methods were savage. He used hammers, knives, and screwdrivers in his attacks, often delivering more violence than was necessary to kill. Each crime scene told a story of cruelty, rage, and a deep need for control. Between 1975 and 1980, Sutcliffe killed at least 13 women and attempted to murder 7 others. His victims included both sex workers and women with no connection to prostitution, challenging the early police narrative that his violence was limited to a specific group. This assumption, however, deeply impacted the investigation. For years, authorities operated under the belief that the killer targeted only sex workers, which caused them to misinterpret key evidence and overlook potential links. The public outcry grew as women outside of this group fell victim, and the feeling spread that no one was safe. The Yorkshire Ripper investigation became one of the largest and costliest manhunts in British history. Police interviewed tens of thousands of men, collected mountains of files, and poured resources into the search. Yet Sutcliffe remained free. Part of the reason was the now infamous Wearside Jack hoax. A man from Sunderland sent letters and a tape to police, claiming responsibility for the murders. His voice on the recording, with a distinctive accent, persuaded investigators that they were looking for a man from the northeast of England. The hoax wasted critical years, diverting attention away from the real killer, who lived in plain sight in West Yorkshire. During these years, fear spread like wildfire. Entire communities lived under constant anxiety. Women were warned not to go out alone at night, and many carried weapons or traveled in groups to feel safe. Taxi services were overwhelmed, as women refused to walk home in the dark. Parents worried for their daughters, and husbands walked their wives home after work. The shadow of the Ripper seemed everywhere, his presence invisible but inescapable. Newspapers ran stories daily, and the public's frustration with the police grew intense. How could one man outwit such a massive operation for so long? In truth, Sutcliffe had come close to being caught multiple times. He was interviewed by police on several occasions but managed to talk his way out, appearing harmless and cooperative. Each missed opportunity added to the tragedy, allowing him to strike again and again. He lived what seemed like a normal life with Sonia, working as a lorry driver, quietly attending family gatherings, and blending into society. No one imagined that the polite man they saw was secretly living a double life as Britain's most feared predator. Sutcliffe's eventual capture in January 1981 was almost accidental. He was stopped by police during a routine traffic check in Sheffield for having false license plates. When officers searched his car, they discovered tools that linked him to the crimes, including a hammer and a knife hidden away. Taken into custody, Sutcliffe shocked detectives by confessing calmly and directly. He described the murders in chilling detail, showing little emotion, as if he had finally unburdened himself of a secret too heavy to keep. The trial that followed gripped the nation. Sutcliffe's defense argued that he suffered from paranoid schizophrenia and believed he was on a divine mission to rid the world of prostitutes. His claims disturbed the court, but the jury ultimately rejected diminished responsibility and found him guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, a relief for the public who had lived in terror for years. For the families of the victims, however, no verdict could ever truly heal the wounds. Sutcliffe spent decades behind bars, first in prison and later in Broadmoor Hospital, a high-security psychiatric facility. He died in 2020 from complications related to COVID-19. Yet his crimes remain among the darkest chapters in British criminal history. His case not only revealed the horrors of one man's brutality but also exposed systemic failings in policing and the dangers of bias in investigations. The Yorkshire Ripper's legacy is one of devastation, sorrow, and lessons painfully learned. His story reminds us of the hidden darkness that can exist in the most ordinary of lives, and how communities can be forever scarred by the actions of one man who lived unnoticed among them. And as we close this chapter of fear and tragedy, one haunting question lingers: how many more killers have walked among us, unnoticed, their secrets buried deep, until the day their darkness finally revealed itself to the world?